We start our story with the hero called Takahiro, who is bravely facing the demon lord, slashing enemies who came in his way. This very brave hero was summoned to another world where he defeated the demon lord and brought peace to the world. As people cheer and adored him, Takahiro decided to come back to his original world. In his world, Takahiro is now facing a serious dilemma. It's which adult doujin will he fap into, now that Takahiro is now alone and in his own world. He no longer need to hold his masturbating any longer. It was very difficult for him to masturbate in the other world, since there were always people around him, and he didn't even have time to do so. All he thought about in his entire half of the journey is to masturbate. Now that he is back and getting isekai didn't really take too much time in his original world, Takahiro can now and finally enjoy jerking off. As he whipped out his tissues, a woman had crashed into his window and had stumbled into his bedroom. Shocked from what had happened, Takahiro was puzzled by the event that happened. The woman was muttering how she didn't stick the landing and faced the brave hero, to which he recognized her easily. She was one of the demon tribe. Takahiro was preparing to strike when he realized that his sword wasn't on him. He threatened the woman and showed her that he is capable of defending himself despite the lack of weapons. The demon lady giggled at him, making him a bit annoyed from her lack of respect. But it was actually the exact opposite. The demon lady was actually admiring Takahiro and gave him a hug, whispering to him seducingly that she likes him. Takahiro was caught off guard and moved away from her, wanting to know exactly what her deal was. The demon lady apologized and told him that seeing him made her horny. Takahiro couldn't believe it and asked her name. It was revealed that she was the daughter of the demon lord called Lilia. Takahiro asked if she was here for vengeance because of killing her father, but Lilia wasn't there for all that vengeance crap. She was there for one thing only. While Lilia was explaining, Takahiro's eyes wandered into Lilia's breast and couldn't have been more obvious that he was indeed distracted by her breast because of his horniness. Lilia didn't mind at all and went to proceed from what she was saying. She went to her knees and begged Takahiro to impregnate her. Takahiro didn't know what to do and panicked, asking her what she meant by that and how she was able to speak Japanese. The commotion only led to more commotion when Takahiro had lost his footing and both of them fell down the bed. Takahiro couldn't believe what was happening right now and how this very hot chick had asked him to have a sexy time with him. It was too good to be true, which is why he doubted the real intention of this very fine demonic lady. But looking at this very sexy woman got him acting up. His horniness was the one in charge now. Takahiro was about to let her have her way when Lilia said something that ticked him off. The reason why Lilia was so adamant to have her impregnate her is because she wanted their child to bear the blood of the hero, making their kid powerful. Takahiro couldn't have been faster jumping out of that scenario when he heard those words from her. Everything made sense now. Lilia was using him to rebuild the Demon Lord army. He couldn't let that happen. If he did, the world will end as they know it. The temptation was strong with this one. It wasn't helping also when Lilia was hugging him, making him more horny. He needed to snap out of it, and the only thing he thought was doing was to remember what her mother looked like naked. But unfortunately, her mother was too hot for him. Shame had defeated this brave hero and begun to weep, apologizing from his very shameful behavior. Lilia was confused as to why he had started crying and asked her to go home for today. It was strange, but she shrugged it off and went to think that heroes like him do cry after all. Thus it now begins, a strange tale with the strange duo. Today, the brave hero, Takahiro, decided to spend his day playing the games he missed from getting transported to another world. He was about to have his fun when suddenly Lilia crashed into his windows once again. Takahiro wasn't delighted from Lilia's entrance and nagged her for busting his other window, which she replied that if she wanted her to stop doing that, then maybe he should get softer windows. The defeated hero resigned from Lilia's reasoning and asked her why she came back. With a smile on her face, it was obvious why the demon's daughter went back to the hero's lair. It's for him to impregnate her, of course. Takahiro didn't want any of that and went back to his game and tried his best to ignore Lilia while she tried to get his attention. After her failed attempts, Lilia wondered why Takahiro was so focused on what he was doing that he was completely ignoring her. Curious, The demon's daughter blocked the TV and began to take interest in what exactly the very thin wall is, and why it has these pixelated people moving on it. Moments after, a person delivering food rang the doorbell and had delivered the food Takahiro ordered. The steaming hot pizza had caught Lilia's attention, which made Takahiro offer her a slice. She looked so happy tasting the pizza for the first time that she completely forgot why she was there in the first place. Just like that, Lilia managed to chill and read manga beside Takahiro while he played his own game. Takahiro couldn't help but admire the demon's daughter now that she wasn't so keen about sleeping with him. So much so that he was about to let his guard down when Lilia had filled her stomach and started to spout that it was now the best time to have intercourse. Of course, Takahiro refused, but Lilia wasn't going down that easily. She proposed that they should have 3 matches together, and that whoever wins must do what the winner wants. The first match was arm wrestling, which was a breeze for Takahiro. Though he almost lost when he saw Lilia's melons, he made sure to finish the fight strong and stuck to his principles. Lilia didn't take the loss well and went to proceed for the second match. This time, Takahiro gets to choose what game they are going to play. He chose with the simple game of rock, paper, and scissors. Lilia confidently told Takahiro her play, hinting him what he should use, and was doing mind games to throw him off. Though it didn't quite play like Lilia had expected because she hit him with scissors instead of the rock that she was supposed to play. Takahiro couldn't believe how dumb she was for changing her answer and just looked at her while she was having a mental breakdown from her own stupidness. This went on for a couple of minutes until her voice turned hoarse and didn't want to accept her loss. The demon's daughter proposed that they should have a drinking game to finalize the victor of this game, ignoring the fact that Takahiro had already won because of his 2 wins. Takahiro was slightly tired from her antics and just went with what she wanted. Little did he know that she was plotting something she knew he couldn't resist. Unaware, the two started their drinking game with a couple of beers already finished. They were having a wonderful chat about the demons in the demon's kingdom when Takahiro noticed something strange about her. She was starting to look sexy. He wasn't sure if it was her wearing his clothes, her ponytail, or even her flushed, alluring face. All he knew that the more they stayed together in this room, the more he would likely want to tap that. Takahiro wanting her to leave, Lilia was finding herself getting more and more drunk, so drunk that she finally passed out. This was the final contest Takahiro has to face, the contest of abstinence. Takahiro bravely moved Lilia to a much more comfier place to sleep while fighting his own demons. He was not sure if he could make it, but seeing her in such a state had sent something off. He was about to let the demons win, but was slapped by common sense when she talked in her sleep. It was then he decided to not get swept by lust and took things in his own hands. Meanwhile, Lilia had woken up from her nap and saw the grunting Takahiro tied in a rope. With no questions asked, Lilia was about to take advantage of him when she felt something come up. She ran into the sink and puked all the things she had eaten and drank. Takahiro, worried about Lilia's state, followed her and wanted to treat her hangover for her. Lilia was embarrassed that she saw her in such a state and ran off. Confused from why she ran off, Takahiro once again defeated the demon's daughter advances. Takahiro had just gotten home and was about to turn the AC when out of nowhere Lilia rejoiced with him the comforts of having an AC and wanted to bring this kind of technology to Sandia. Frantic from her surprise visit, Takahiro was starting to lose it when he asked her why she was here, and Lilia showed the 3rd window she had crashed into. He couldn't help but scold her from her actions and didn't want her doing the impregnate me crap today, since she was already causing him trouble for today. Surprisingly, Lilia did manage to chill out as Takahiro played, but this quietness didn't take so long when Takahiro noticed that she was eating her pudding. This caused Lilia to drop her pudding into the magazine that Takahiro was going to read. This set Takahiro off and went on a rampage about how he is so sick of Lilia using his things without permission. Lilia, of course, retaliates, which causes her to get kicked out of the house. Now that Takahiro had finally had his peace and quiet, he felt slightly guilty from the way he acted towards Lilia. Even though she is the daughter of the demon lord, Lilia still has feelings, so he decided to look for her. Takahiro used his otherworldly powers to look for her presence, which led him to under a bridge where a very odd house made of cardboard sit in the middle of it. He wasn't sure if this was the right one, but seeing Lilia come out of the box with only a tracksuit, confirms that she is living in such a bad condition. Lilia was slightly sad that Takahiro and her got into a heated argument. Takahiro was deeply moved that she was thinking of him that way, but was ruined when Lilia started to run her mouth. He was about to leave her when a couple of dudes showed up, wanting to touch Lilia. Of course, Takahiro did not sit idly by, and went to pretend that they were a couple so those idiots would stop harassing Lilia, but they were two persistent assholes. They wanted to cause trouble and punched Takahiro straight to his face. Takahiro was confused as to why the punch had hurt him, and realized that he got so used to the other world, he forgot that he feels pain in this world. Lilia wasn't happy that the love of her life had been punched in the face by two stupid people. She wanted to hurt them too. As Lilia prepares her attack, Takahiro accidentally pulls her pants as he tries to stop her. Takahiro begged her to stop and not kill the two unaware victims. Instead, he tried to stop them by slightly hitting them. It was a good thing that his strength remained the same and fended the two bullies off, making them leave once and for all. Lilia was delighted that she got to see how powerful Takahiro was and was happy that he fought because of her. Takahiro called her bluff and said to her that she only did that because she was going to kill them. Either way, Lilia was glad and requested for them to call each other by their first names. As both of them were bickering, a call from an unknown person was trying to reach Lilia. Alone in her cardboard house, Lilia was seen joyfully singing while taking her clothes off. A voice shocked the demon's lord daughter, asking why she was in high spirits. The voice had entered her cardboard box, revealing that it was only her trusted attendant and supervisor, Ideanor. Ideanor had come all the way from their world to the human world to check the status of Lilia's mission, which was impregnating Lilia with the hero's seed. Learning that Lilia was so far from reaching this goal, she had come up with something to further this mission. Meanwhile, while this is all happening, the hero, Takahiro, had just finished temporarily repairing his window when Lilia had entered his window again, breaking his last window. Takahiro wasn't happy from her sudden visit and noticed her change of clothes. While distracted, Ideanor had already entered Takahiro's home without his knowledge and introduced herself to him. Just like what Lilia did in the very first chapter, Ideanor pleaded while she was on her knees that Takahiro would sleep with Lilia and get her pregnant. Takahiro asked why it was important for him to sleep with Lilia, to which Ideanor answered right away. They needed him so that the demon kingdom would have a rightful ruler, since it was his fault why the kingdom was on the verge of its downfall. Takahiro did not receive the criticism very well, and argued with Ideanor that what he did was right and isn't his fault at all. This made Lilia jump on him, making her feel a bit jealous and wanting to make cute babies with him. Ideanor wanted to help too and wasn't shy if she was needed in order for him to rile things up. As a man and a horny person, Takahiro had led his guards down and had a boner while the two were clamoring over who would make him feel this intense pleasure. Takahiro was overwhelmed and went to the bathroom to hide and jerk off, not wanting any of them to help. Once he was done, his aura changed and asked the two hotties to leave his house. Ideanor sensed his aura was not to be trifled with and left the house with Lilia, leaving the seducing for another day. Early in the morning, Lilia unexpectedly knocked on Takahiro's door while wearing a very sexy bunny costume. Even though Takahiro was normally being himself and looked like he wasn't getting affected by Lilia's tactics, he was fighting his very best not to surrender from sleeping with her even though he was at his limit. Her being casual about it wasn't so helpful because he was getting a peek of what's to come every time she moved mischievously. Once again, Takahiro's sword couldn't help but peek also. It was then Lilia had noticed that their tactics were indeed working. She then started to bring him closer to her, though Takahiro did his best to avoid since he knew it wouldn't really end well if he let her be. He wasn't about to surrender when Ideanor had given him a glass of water out of nowhere to quench his thirst, but that was his mistake. The glass was actually spiked with magic and drugs, making him wanting to impregnate any lady that would stand in his way. The only downside of this was him being a little bit creepy for Lilia's taste and making her repel with his advances. Ideanor was only standing by when Takahiro grabbed him by her thigh. She too wasn't having it and smashed his face into the floor. This made Takahiro sober up and angrily made them leave the house once again. While this was happening, an unknown lady was outside and watching them. wanting to crush them all. Takahiro was given a letter by Ideonor to come and visit them early in the morning, which he followed dumbingly. Despite knowing that this might have been a trap, Takahiro did still go to their place and ask why he was needed there. While Takahiro was occupied from looking whether they were there, Ideonor sneakily went to his back hoping to capture him, but was too slow. Takahiro already sensed and stopped what she was doing, grabbing the pill that she was about to put in his mouth. Takahiro asked what's her deal with, and she explained that the pill was the magical pill she had enhanced in order for him to do exactly what she wanted to do, while retaining his consciousness while using this drug. Lilia heard the two squabbling and saw that Takahiro was about to leave when an unknown person hit him, throwing him towards Ideonor and Lilia. The person who did that was called Nashta. Nashta had come all the way to this world to kill Lilia and Takahiro for her and her brother to finally reclaim the demon kingdom all to herself. Takahiro wasn't really having it when Nashta was trash-talking Lilia and smashed his face to the ground. Lilia was glad that she did that for her, but Takahiro got too distracted and got his nuts and saber crushed by Nashta. Because of this, Takahiro couldn't help but wail in pain and got beaten by Nashta as he was still wallowing from getting his nuts crushed. Nashta went to crash Lilia's crotch too, but was only making her feel good down there. This is where Ideonor reminded Takahiro about the pill and had come up with a way for her to eat it unknowingly. Takahiro caught her attention by asking her name once again and popping the pill as she opened her mouth, causing her to swallow it. As soon as she is in their magic, Takahiro commanded her to go back to the demon kingdom like a dog immediately. Ideonor followed Nashta, making sure that she went back to the demon kingdom and left them all alone. The two of them asked whether they were all right and had a very heartfelt conversation between them. Takehiro's heart grew fond of her but stopped her as soon as he knew that things would escalate if he didn't. With a broken dick, Takahiro once again avoided getting laid,